Hey everybody, it's Lynn here from A Bit of Birdsong, and several people asked about the shirt that I made, and I love the way it turned out, so I do want to make more. I've got a piece of fabric just laying across the dress form, so I haven't cut it yet. I was just looking at it. I went through my fabric to see if I could find another piece that is a rectangle and similar in size. And I think this one fits the bill. And actually, this is a piece of fabric I found while I was out thrifting at the scrap exchange. I bought it, brought it home and washed it and folded it up and put it with my fabrics that I know I want to use for clothing. I love that it's so ratty. I love that grungy look. And we're going to add a lot to it. So let me see if I can turn this into a shirt. Don't mind me. I just slipped on something when I rolled out of bed. I've got my mosquito bites. My hair's not combed, but I usually come straight out here and play in the mornings with my coffee. So this piece, it's a nice rectangle. It's longer in the back than it is in the front. And that is the way I want it. We may end up cutting some off of the front and the back. But for right now, this is what I want. And I need to go ahead and just cut a neck hole out. I've got it folded where I think the sides are pretty even. I'm going to fold it right in half, and this is where I'm going to cut a little piece out for the neck. This is the spot where we want the neck to be, and I do it just like I do everything else. I'm not going to be precious about this. I'm hoping you can see this okay. Let me just show you this little shape we cut out. I basically just cut a very, very shallow arc there. The shortest part is in the front. Now, we're going to modify the neck once we get it on here, but at least, and see, that very little cut has already made a neck hole this large. So it doesn't take much at all. I think it needs to be a little lower. I don't know that it needs to come across more this way, but we could stand to take a little bit out. And we're going to be hemming it, so, you know, it's not going to be a ragged edge. Now, the first fabric I worked with, the one I did yesterday, it was a crinkly fabric. When the fabrics are crinkled, you know, you can stretch them in one direction, but not necessarily the other. This is more of a knit that stretches a little bit in every direction. See, that's not quite even. So it's going to be probably a little bit harder to sew, but that's okay. It's a piece I had that's the right size, so we're going to go with it. The next thing I did was to get out my straight pins and pull this up and look at maybe where I want to make this stitch that's going to run across here. And I think maybe about right here is good. So I'm going to put a little not a safety pin, a straight pin right here to show me where I'm going to sew. This is not the best color on me, but we're going to make it work because we can add things to decorate it. And let's see, just holding this up, I'm going to grab another little section. I'm careful to keep it level, and I'm kind of going up just the tiniest bit, not a whole lot. We don't want it to fit tight. In fact, I'm going to move that down a little bit and just go up with the third one a little bit. This is what I did last time. I put 3 pins in. I need to put pins on the other side, and I don't want to block the view of the camera, but what I did was hold these up. You can pull it around and measure to get it pretty much in the same space, and I think this is about the right height. We will even our fabric up and put a pin here. I've got all sorts of pins going on, and we'll go up a little bit with this third one. So let's see if this looks even. I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. I have to change my thread. All I have in it right now is sort of an off-white. I don't know, that might work, but it might be best to go with something that's the right color. And I'm just going to sew straight across into where that last pin is on each side. I felt like you might want to see how I do this part. I don't know if you can fully like appreciate every angle or whatever, but so here's the shirt. We've got our pins in. I'm just going to put it under the presser foot here and sew a straight line. This fabric tends to roll up a little bit, so I'm going to roll it out and make the ends meet in the right place. And we may end up with some little, you know, puckers or whatever. I'm going to set the length on about 3.5 on my machine. This may be a little unorthodox, but I went with black so that you could see the stitches. And now I'm going to come over to the other side and do exactly the same thing. I'm going to unroll the fabric so the ends meet up a little better. So this fabric's doing kind of a funny thing. See how it's sticking out there? That's where I rolled out the edges to make them line up. But I think it's all going to be fine. It's all going to turn out fine when we start adding things. I think we came in about the same distance on each side. I would say, just for reference, I would say the fabric in the back is hanging about 5 inches longer than in the front. Another something really fun that we want to do is find some fabric to go in this V shape on the side. Okay, so we're going to do this in the floor. And here's the shirt. I've taken it off the dress form, and this is the side. So that's where we sewed that line underneath the sleeve, and you see how it leaves a perfect triangle, an opening, and we're going to make it really flowy and more full by adding some fabric in there. I have this very gauzy loosely woven fabric. I think the colors are pretty together. It lightens it up a whole lot. I looked at some other darker colors and it felt too dark. Okay, the camera is propped up on my little art tray, but I'm hoping that you can see this. What I did last time was just lay the fabric out, and we're going to cut a triangle shape. So I really like these edges here too. Of course, we may end up cutting some of them off as we trim the shirt once we're done. Position the fabric so the lines are going to be going straight up and down. I had it too angled. This is so gauzy. I'm wondering if we're going to end up with way too many loose edges. Goes up far enough, and I'm leaving some fabric that's a little longer. Now let's cut up this side. You want to be careful not to cut your fabric underneath. Now let's take a look at this. Now it's going to be way too long. We're going to end up trimming it some. This is a fun, easy part. And it doesn't look like it's going to be too bad. Now, I want to go ahead and cut a triangle to match for the other side while we have it. And you see there's a spot in the fabric. I'll try to avoid that. There's a spot over here. Don't worry too much. This fabric has been washed. I will wash it again. I'll try to avoid any spots as much as I can, but sometimes it's just an opportunity to cut out a patch from another piece of fabric you really love and sew it on top of the stain. So we're just going to see what happens. This is exactly what I did yesterday. I just played. There was nothing was set in stone. I kind of just did what felt right. Wow, I've actually rigged up something where I hope you can see the sewing machine. I used 2 little wooden sticks and a big book to hold them in place to make a camera stand. Let's see, where's the front? Not that it matters, but All right. You know, this may seem a little unorthodox and intimidating. I think it's fun. I love doing things like this. I like these sort of, you know, challenges. And I'm noticing that in this triangle, this side seems to be like fatter or longer. I'm going to put that towards the back, so I guess it does matter. We're not going to turn anything under. In fact, so I'm going to lay the corner of the fabric up into the corner of where our cut is. And you want to not pull on knit fabrics. You just don't want to. You're going to stretch them out and they won't be the right size when you're done sewing, or they will be puckered. We're going to do a zigzag stitch, and I'll set the length on about 2 or 2.5. We may have to adjust it, and the width is on 4. And we're just going to sew along this edge. The zigzag stitch is going to show. Since this fabric is wanting to roll, I have no idea what it's going to do. It's going to do whatever it wants to. And we're just not going to worry about it. But I am unrolling it to make it lay flat with our coarser woven fabric. I'm okay if a few things don't line up perfectly. I'm okay with a few threads hanging down. It's going to be kind of hippified. Okay, we've come all the way to the bottom on that side, and you can see it's kind of wanting to ripple a little bit. I have no idea what it's going to do. Again, this is exactly what happened yesterday. There was no rhyme or reason. So now we're going to be seeing the darker fabric on top, because we got to turn this and sew down the other side. And we're going to start again at the very top of the triangle shape, the very tip top. If you want to, you can trim the loose threads from your machine as you go, so that it's not just too messy. You can kind of see better what's happening. We don't really want to leave a hole here, so I'm starting at the very tip top, opposite of the other side there. In fact, I'm going to start even higher, like right up on that line we sewed across, because I don't want to leave any gaps. Cut that string. And our triangle's under here somewhere. Again, we're just going to go straight down. Go back and forth a little bit. And again, I'm not pulling on the fabrics. I am just letting them. Now, I see a place there that I'm going to pull it a little bit because it's got a pick in it. And you can change the size of your zigzag stitch if you want it to be shorter and wider or whatever. I used to make things like this and sell them on Etsy, all the way back at the very beginning of my shop. I sold altered couture, as they call it. I think that's going to be really pretty. Oh my gosh, it almost has like the Native American, I don't know, it reminds me of the skins, deer skins and the different hides and things. So now we're going to come to the other side. Let's go see how it looks. I love the way this is turning out. It's very full. I mean, you could do whatever you want to with it. If you wanted to leave these long pieces, it feels kind of, like wings or angel-like or whatever. I am probably going to trim these a little bit, and I'll show you how I do that and then incorporate other fabrics in the front and the back. Now it's back on the dress form, and you can see the stitches here that we made, and we'll be cutting off these little loose strings. You can see how much longer that white fabric is versus this in front. I just love the grunginess of this. It's going to be the type of shirt where if it gets picked, it's not even going to matter. Now, I think you can see this okay. It's longer in the back. It can't hang down, obviously, because the chair is in the way. I know that I want to add some fabric or ruffles or something to the front. So I don't want to cut all of this off, but for now, let's just cut a little bit off. And go on back here. Let's angle it down a little bit. It's still longer. It's not as long. We could try rounding it in the front a little bit more. We're going to have something hanging down here, so don't worry too much about that. I really love those edges at the bottom. I hate to lose that. But it's okay. So now let's pick out a fabric to add, or some lace or something to go across the bottom. I love these edges, this just sort of messy edge, so much. And I didn't have a piece long enough to go all the way across the back in just one continuous piece, but it may be possible to overlap. I still don't know if that's going to be long enough. It really is long enough. So I think we're going to take it to the sewing machine and put this across the back. Oh, do I want to do this? Do I want it overlapped in the back? The way it hangs, I don't really think it's going to matter so much. And then I found this pretty piece of fabric. I don't know if it's going to fade though. That would be so pretty as a tag up here. That's something I found at the thrift store. Someone had started stitching and I was so inspired by this, but it would be very pretty to have that as a tag up there. I like that. Let's take the shortest end and put it over here, so it's, if there is a longer end, it's going to be more in the back. And we're just going to start sewing with a zigzag stitch, but I'm wondering if I want it under or over. If I put it under, I think it's going to look better. I think I can angle it a little better to have, maybe put even a little tuck there so that they overlap nicely. And I do not want to pull on this fabric at all. And we're just doing the zigzag stitch again. And I think it'll look better if these two pieces of white are gonna overlap. I think it's gonna look better underneath. Now I'm just seeing it's not even there and we're gonna overlap it, so I don't want that piece just, you know, jamming everything up. Time to bring our other piece over and makes me think about that lady who got so mad at Joann's, the customer, and left me a bad review because she knew that I had made a skirt with a very coarse cotton canvas with this same sewing machine that I use for paper. I use it for fabric. I don't change the thread. I don't change the tension. I don't go buy stretchy thread. I just don't. I use my plain old cotton or polyester thread. And she wanted me to tell her what to put her tension on for her machine and her settings. I told her very politely many times. We probably had the conversation 7 times while she was at the counter. She walked off, she came back, and she just made some very nasty expressions to me when I told her I did not know. And she left me a very ugly personal review. She said that I had been bragging and that I knew how to tell her to do something, but I didn't want to tell her. And you all see, I'm sewing with a stretchy fabric, which I rarely use. I'm not doing anything with it. I don't know what to do. It's just the way, I just do things like this. I don't know. That hurt my feelings though, because of course my coworker saw that and it was very ugly. It was very personal the way she left it. But you know, if that's the kind of person she is, then let her be. Again, I hope you can see this. It is getting pretty long in the back. And that's okay, we're just gonna go with it. I don't think it's too long. It would be very pretty with a slip under it and a camisole, and it could also be really pretty as a long shirt over leggings, which is what I like to wear. Going through and cutting some of these strings. Well, maybe I should start going through my little container of white and off-white fabric to see what I have to fill in the front. Last night somebody was counting all the different types of, that rose is pretty too on there. Someone counted all the different types of lace on the other shirt. It was like 7 different kinds, and I had to overlap them, sort of like with this, which I'm fine with. I don't really want the yellow with that. That's too much for my sallow skin. This is already a challenge, but I like it, so I'm going to wear it. But I do like this. There's something about that I really like. And, you know, if we have to piece things together, that's fine. This, and do we want it on the top or underneath? Maybe underneath. Let me get my pins. And we're going to angle it under there so that it lays nicely right there. I'm not going to stretch the fabric. And we're not going to worry about gathering the cotton fabric under here too much. I may do it a little bit in just a few places, but this shirt is already so big and it has so much fabric in it. It's going to hang with ripples in it, believe me. So we don't want some huge, you know, enormous ruffle in the front. We're just not going to need it. And of course, as you see, for some things, I didn't do any pinning. I just kind of went over there because I knew the angles were going to line up, and it was just a matter of, you know, like sewing in the sides. I didn't pin any of that. But this, I want to know how it looks because it's going to be right in the front. And once we sew it on, there's not going to be any going back. I'm just using all kinds of pins and needles. We are going to have to overlap, I think, because this may not be enough to go all the way to the end. And I see what might be just a little happy accident. The way the fabric is torn and it curves right there. I think you can see that. I think it's going to make it really pretty when we have that other piece underneath it. And that's not a raw edge there. Do I want to? No, I didn't even wait for my brain to answer. Yeah, let's just cut, because I don't want that selvage there. It's too finished for the rest of the project. I hope we have enough of this. To finish this off. If we don't, we'll go with something different. I think this is going to be awesome. See how it's going to angle up there? So let's go over with how much we're cutting. And maybe kind of do like we did on the other end. Let's angle this so that we don't want it like that. That's really, we don't need all that. Let's cut off. I don't want to accidentally cut the wrong thing. That's pretty. So that's going to be the front. And I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and do just like I've done with everything else. I don't think I need to show you. We're going to do the zigzag stitch all the way across. Okay, I've had it on the dress form and I've just been going through cutting off any strings and looking at the corners and the sides and, you know, thinking of how I'm going to just work one edge into another. It doesn't have to be perfect. This little corner here could end up being really pretty just hanging down. I need to try it on again, but This is the part where I'm just sort of looking and thinking. Another thing I did on the other shirt, and this fabric's going to react a little differently, I think, but I may do it again. It's a very large shirt, and it's going to be pretty, but I felt like the other, especially the other fabric, see how it tends to fold right here, and just doing the same thing over here. What I did with the other one is take a piece of lace. Kim, I think it was some lace you sent me. Very gorgeous lace. And I pinned a piece across the front and sewed it just straight across to give it that shape in the front. And it seemed like it made the shirt or dress hang prettier. Another thing that I went ahead and took care of was pinning this tag in place on the back. This fabric is so stretchy, I'm having a hard time making sure that it's lined up just right. I keep picking this up on each side and saying, is it centered? But you know, it's gonna probably be the same way when I wear it. It's just the fabric, you know. And the last step after this that I'm doing now will be adding some lace to the sleeves if we decide to do that. All right, I'm gonna turn the camera on one more time before I go in and try it on and decide if I wanna cut some length off. I'll get in front of a full length mirror. Now, for some reason my thread broke twice during this. So I had to start over again, and I do not worry about things like that. In the front here, instead of a piece of lace, I used a piece of fabric. What is this called? It's embroidered. It reminds me of, I can't think of what it's called. But anyway, it's a cotton, so it's not exactly the same fabric as this, but I like the way it sort of pulls it together in the front. And I did come through and trim. It was a little longer, and I could trim it even closer to the stitches. I think this is gonna ravel some, but I think this embroidery will keep it from just unraveling way, way, way too much. So I'm thinking I want to trim about 3 inches off of this, honestly. And I think it's still going to end up being a little longer than the one yesterday. But the way to do this is just do it. And kind of hold it up. Don't want to cut through the wrong thing. Maybe angle it down more. Right in the back. And I'm thinking that it's going to start to do its crazy, you know, unraveling again, which I really like. Maybe we will cut a little off the sides and bring it in a little closer to the front there. I think that's okay. We could, if you don't like the way this is hanging apart, you could put a little flower at the corner here. It would be really pretty. You could stitch it together a little bit. I think once it's on the body, it's not going to show that much. You know, one good thing about this, it's cutting off a stain that I really did not notice to start with. Maybe I did, but I forgot about it, and I don't want that right in the back at the bottom of the dress. Let's see. Maybe kind of angle that down a little bit so it hangs pretty. Still cut a little bit off and then come up this way. We don't need to take much off of this side. Because this side, see, it already almost matches there in the front. And I think that might do it. So I'll show you what it looks like when I'm wearing it.